everyone, my name is Saanchi, and I'm an in-house article writer for the Mind Matters magazine. And with me today, I have an advocate and a member of the LGBTQ community who goes by the name Kai, and they have a blog called Being LGBTQ, and they have spread awareness about the community within TISB. Hi Kai, it's a pleasure to have you today.
Hi Saanchi, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so let's go. Let's start off with the first question. So in December 2019, Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif endorsed the execution of homosexual people in Iran. He stated that our society has moral principles and we live according to these principles. There are moral principles concerning the behavior of people in general, and that means that the law is respected and the law is obeyed. Apart from Iran, many countries such as Sudan and Yemen too have partial or complete death penalty laws for gay people. Why do underdeveloped countries have legal systems that are structured based on religious principles, and why do these countries still have strong ties with religion?
So a lot of homophobia in extremely religious countries spurs from the behavior towards homosexuality in their texts and scripts, such as the Bible and the Quran. Then again, a lot of this is caused due to translating errors or misinterpretation of the original text. So religion is normally viewed as a principle to reinforce morals and ethics to the society. According to a survey that I came across, majority of the people around the world feel that you can't be a good person without believing in God. And amusingly, the more economically advanced a country is, the more people feel it's possible to be good without believing in God. So the line between what is religiously acceptable and what can be morally acceptable is blurred, as what is religiously right is almost used synonymous to what is ethically right. And most underdeveloped countries do not have access to the kind of exposure and education we have as developing countries. They have to abide by the rules that have existed for a long time, and challenging the existing rules might not be societally tolerable. So when more perspectives are welcomed by these countries, the acceptance of what is besides the norm will slowly prevail as well.
Okay. Now, about 8% of students in America identify as being gay, lesbian, or bisexual, which shows how common it is for young individuals to identify as being a part of this community. However, 66% of LGBTQ high schoolers have reported to have been bullied and verbally abused. What are some of the mental challenges that the high school victims can face, and what effects do they have on their daily lives?
So when a member of the LGBTQIA plus community is exposed to a negative depiction or perception of the community, they tend to concur with those ideas, hence manifesting self-hatred and often even the negligence to accept their sexuality or orientation. This is actually known as internalized homophobia and is one of the most common forms of mental challenges that can be seen in LGBT plus teenagers. So being surrounded by straight or cisgender individuals, LGBT teenagers often feel secluded. They often fail to come in terms with their identity or sexuality, as they may fear being ridiculed or rejected by their peers. And this suppression of their identity and the fear of being outed can very often induce antisocial behavior and mental health problems such as depression or anxiety.
Okay, and what are several psychological reasons which cause many high schoolers to bully others based on their sexual orientation?
So the negative schema surrounding LGBT community is what promotes bullying. The kids might be thought that being LGBT is a sin or even unusual, and being brought up with those morals, kids tend to intimidate others that don't keep to their teaching. So kids have the habit of imitating what they see. So if they grow up in a household where it is normal to use the F slur or to despise homosexuals, that is what they're likely to do. And at that very impressionable age, it takes just one kid with a dominating character to influence their peers to spread the negativity, hence making homophobia a cool, popular, and even acceptable behavior.
Okay. And what can LGBTQ individuals do if they are being bullied?
So talking to a trusted authoritative figure can really help out in those kinds of situations. And even seeking support groups or finding people that they can relate to can also help the teenagers accept themselves and ignore the hate. But I feel most importantly, schools should include, for example, LGBT history in their lessons, and they should start educating their students about sexual identities, orientation, and expressions right from the start, hence normalizing it. And they should, yeah, like normalize being different and abandon strict heteronormative principles.
Okay. Now, as you may know, J.K. Rowling has come under much controversy after her recent transphobic tweets, wherein she stated that transgender women are not women as they do not menstruate. Can you explain to us why her tweets are offensive and how people have been mentally wired to perceive gender as something that is black or white when there are really shades in between?
So J.K. Rowling's tweet was considered transphobic because by claiming that people who menstruate are women, Rowling was invalidating a trans woman's identity as a female, as they might not menstruate if they haven't medically transitioned. And additionally, trans men who have not medically transitioned and some non-binary individuals still menstruate. However, that does not mean that they're female. So we are taught from a very young age that there are only two genders, male and female. However, gender is more of an expression of oneself rather than a definition of their anatomy. So I think the more appropriate term for that would be sex rather than gender. So starting from birth, we are required to pick one out of these two sexes and are expected to adhere to them. So washrooms, clothes, classrooms, sports, and even colors are divided based on sex. So once you have been offered with a sexual identity, it is difficult to break out of the mold and the schema surrounding it. And gender is a social construct and it can be seen as a spectrum. However, sex, on the other hand, is viewed as this or that. The two sexes are seen as polar opposites and have been viewed so for a very long time. But we often fail to acknowledge the intermediate in sex as well. Many people are not educated or even aware of the existence of intersex individuals who are either born with biologically male or female parts or incompletely developed genitalia. So the lack of education and the rigid segregation of gender and sexuality is what causes a poor understanding of someone's sense of self.
Okay. Now, people who have difficulty in recognizing their gender and sexual orientation know that this is a very challenging and frustrating experience. Can you tell us some of the mentally strenuous tasks that occur during this recognition phase, and have you faced any such challenges?
Yeah, sure. So it begins with realizing that we may be different from the ones surrounding us. Since heteronormativity is a huge thing, LGBT people may feel isolated and might not have anyone to relate to or find similar. So that puts us in a place where we might be trying to suppress our identity in order to fit in or avoid being bullied. So the lack and also the lack of representation in media as well contributes to LGBTQ plus members' failure to recognize their identities. So often kids that grow up in religious environments or just in societies that shun being LGBT, we can see internalized homophobia. And it takes a lot of time for them to accept themselves first before coming out to anyone else. So, and with so many labels being available right now, it might be stressful to choose one that fits them. And we might not get it right at first. So the fear of not adhering to the rules that come along with the label may also contribute to the mental strain. When I came out, I was accepted quite readily by all my friends, and I think that I got really lucky. I came out as bisexual first because I was not ready to accept that I might be leaning completely towards one side of the spectrum. And however, like I began educating myself on all the labels out there and tried to find one that was the most appropriate for myself. And even now, I feel the label I have given myself is not permanent. Like it's still evolving as I'm trying to figure myself out. And for a lot of people, identifying their true self is mostly a mental process. But for some people, it may be physical as well. They might feel instances of gender dysphoria or euphoria, depending on the day or the clothes they wear. And picking the right pronouns and being able to pass well enough for other people to start using those pronouns is an extremely challenging task as well.
Okay. Now, why do you think parents have difficulty in accepting their son or daughter to be a part of the LGBTQ community when they come out?
So some parents have this concrete perception and knowledge of their children. And when their child breaks out of that impression that the parent has created for them, I feel that the parents may take some time to accept or process that new piece of information. This is normally referred to as cognitive dissonance. The parents are presented with information that is contradicting to the existing perception of their child. And all parents have this idea that they know their child best, and the child can in no way be different from what their understanding of them is. So when the parents find out that this is not the case, they get stressed or worried, which interferes with the acceptance of their child. However, as we've talked before, being LGBT might not be accepted in their religion or by their societal norms. So that further contributes to the neglection of their child's sexual identity or orientation. They might tell their kids it's a phase or they're too young to know because they don't want to see the society treating them poorly because of who they are. So their parental instincts to protect their child from danger sort of kicks in.
Okay, thank you so much, Kai, for having you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me again.